crypto, politics, tech and more. Daily News Digest by News Source Crawler, 07 October 2024. In the UK, Amazon, crypto, politics, tech and more. Daily News Digest by News Source Crawler, 07 October 2024. In the UK, Amazon Fire TVs to carry freely streaming platform and boost for BBC and ITV, as BBC and other public UK broadcasters strike Amazon streaming service deal. Bloomberg reports that, in the UK Premier League pushed out gambling firms, teams turned to crypto. 2 years ago, it had been reported as Premier League clubs accused of exploiting supporters as 17 of 20 clubs agreed to commercial cryptocurrency deals, despite growing concerns over potential fraud. Criminals exploit Telegram in Southeast Asia's $36 billion cybercrime, announced in a UN report. Scientists use Cold War-era spy plane to find unexpected gamma rays in thunderstorms. NASA will use mushrooms to grow homes on Mars and the Moon. IG Nobel Prize-winning research announces, longevity claims may reflect lousy birth and death record-keeping, more than accurate human lifespans. Google's grip on search slips as TikTok and AI startup mount challenge. Google is testing verified checkmarks in search. Google starts rolling out 3 theft protection feature for Android. U.S. couple blocked from suing Uber after crash say daughter agreed to terms while using Uber Eats. Uber and Lyft drivers use Teslas as makeshift robot access, raising safety concerns. McLaren introduces $2.1 million W1 hybrid supercar to honor F1 history. Brazil's top court says X paid pending fines to wrong bank. Grindr aims to build the dating world's first AI wingman. iOS 18.1 with Apple Intelligence could arrive on eligible iPhones on October 28. Google will let you search the web with video recordings. New York Times comments as, e-commerce is making China's deflation worse. 1 month ago, it had been commented as China's deflationary spiral now entering dangerous new stage, and Bloomberg commented 1 month ago, China deflation risk grows as signs of economic weakness mount. Bolsonaro-backed candidates pull ahead in Brazil mayor elections. Reuters reports that conservative think tank targeting NASA employees' communications about Musk and Trump. Hillary Clinton says social media companies need to moderate content, or we lose total control. Vance says a future Trump administration would defund Planned Parenthood. Muslim faith leaders endorse Harris. Harris weighs more breaks with Biden, as he keeps injecting himself into the campaign. Axios comments as potential Trump loss threatens destruction of modern GOP. Over 10,000 anti-Semitic incidents recorded in the U.S. since October 7, 2023, according to ADL preliminary data. NBC comments as, the next president is poised to inherit the fewest judicial vacancies in generations. Iran summons Australia envoy over comments on attack on Israel. Iran is increasingly desperate, retired U.S. general says. Israel intensifies bombardment of Gaza and southern Lebanon ahead of October 7th anniversary. Speaker Johnson calls federal response to Helene a massive failure. Florida prepares to evacuate millions of people ahead of another hurricane. Former Google CEO Eric Schmidt says we should go all in on building AI data centers because we are never going to meet our climate goals anyway. Wall Street Journal comments as, Donald Trump Jr. became the crown prince of MAGA world. Elon Musk's mother encouraged ex-followers to commit voter fraud, as she is fact-checked on Son's platform. Recently in U.S. presidential elections, Elon Musk's mother may under fire for suggesting Republicans make 10 fake names to vote. Kushner has discussed U.S. and Saudi diplomacy with Saudi Crown Prince since leaving office. Crypto, politics, tech and more. Daily News Digest by News Source Crawler, 05 October 2024. EU vote on Chinese EV tariffs inconclusive, leaving EU Commission to decide. EU sources say recently, EU was set to vote on tariffs targeting electric vehicles from China. Germany lobbies fellow EU members to vote against tariffs on Chinese EVs, as German union, auto workers call on Germany to vote against EU tariffs on Chinese EVs. Scholz advisor says EV tariffs not good idea, ahead of vote, and China, EU must reason their way out of EV dispute, says Merkel's former advisor. Shares in Stellantis, Aston Martin skid on profit warnings, as European carmakers warn on profits in the face of weak demand and rising costs. OpenAI raises $6.6 billion and is now valued at $157 billion. OpenAI backer Khosla says it's reasonable to invest trillions in AI. Black Forest Labs, the startup behind Grok's image generator, releases an API. Meta unveils AI video generator, taking on OpenAI and Google. Facebook seeks to attract young adults with new community video features. Meta must limit data use for targeted advertising. Top U court rules. Meta is uniting the revenue streams, which it has used to pay more than 4 million creators. Scientists map fruit fly brain and neurobiological milestone. PhD studies hurt mental health but less than previously feared. Nearly 50% of researchers quit science within a decade, huge study reveals. Federal authorities say there's no money left to respond to hurricanes, after FEMA spent $1.4 billion on migrants. In Hurricane Helene's aftermath, more than 200 dead, as hope fades in search for survivors. Tokyo to expand underground cathedral complex to handle more extreme storms. Exported gas produces far worse emissions than coal, major study finds. In the UK, FCA fined Starling Bank £29 million for failings in their financial crime systems and controls. Coinbase to delist unauthorized stablecoins in EU by December. Cybercops stopped 500 ransomware hacks since 2021, DHS says. Musk says he'll attend Trump rally in Butler, scene of July shooting. Liz Cheney invokes January 6th, as she touts endorsement of Harris in Wisconsin. Republican election denier Tina Peters sentenced to 9 years in prison for voting data scheme. Jamie Dimon denies Trump's claim that JP Morgan CEO has endorsed him. Ben Horowitz will donate to Harris campaign after Trump's support. Small dollar donations drive Trump campaign past $160 million in September. U.S. dockworkers suspend 3 days strike after contract extension, and Asian shipping shares sink after U.S. dockworkers pause strike. Quartz mines hit by Hurricane Helene could disrupt the semiconductor supply chain. UN says, Congo rebels generating $300,000 monthly in seized mining area. It has been commented as Federal Reserve drives global push to cut rates despite questions over 2025, and Federal Reserve's rate cut unlikely to boost U.S. auto sales in Q4, as inflation in Europe falls below 2%, paves way for faster interest rate cuts. Czech central bank chief vows to cut rates very cautiously. Romania to pause rate cuts before central bank board reshuffle. Citibank says lira strength appears to be curbing Turkey inflows. Mozambique's presidential frontrunner likely to keep Rwandans protecting gas sites. Trump vows to restore Confederate generals named to NC military base. DNA reveals identity of officer on the lost Franklin expedition, and his remains show signs of cannibalism. Bloomberg comments as, nowhere in America is safe from climate-fueled storms and fires. 1 year ago Bloomberg had been reported as, nowhere is safe from worsening climate change, new U.S. report warns. Biden calls climate change deniers brain dead, warns storms will get worse. A study claims 96% of climate policy since 1998 failed. In the U.S. Justice Department disrupts Russian intelligence spear phishing efforts, as Department of Justice and Microsoft seize 107 internet domains. Dutch government blames a state actor for hacking a police network. Wall Street Journal reports, U.S. wiretap systems targeted in China-linked hack. Trump resorted to crimes to overturn 2020 election. Special counsel reveals the new evidence. As Trump not entitled to immunity for efforts to overturn 2020 election, U.S. special counsel says. Video shows J.D. Vance saying Trump won the 2020 election. New details emerge on Trump's alleged plan to use fake electors to overturn election loss, as Rudy Giuliani allegedly sent a text begging Michigan to overturn 2020 election. But he got the wrong number. Post-trauma, and the alters have been delayed until 2025. Ubisoft shares surged 31% as Tencent and Guillemot family reportedly mull buyout. NFL reportedly negotiates potential deals with Ellison Skydance and Redbird. Apple releases macOS Sequoia 1.5.0.1 with bug fixes. Apple releases iOS 1.8.0.1 with touchscreen bug fix and others. Apple releases watchOS 1.1.0.1 with fix for battery drain and touchscreen issues. Apple may bring a guest mode to your iPhone, helping to protect its secrets. Google adds new Pixel security features to block 2G exploits and baseband attacks. RCMP official won't say whether Chinese police stations are still operating in Canada. Bugging device found in my bathroom after Netanyahu visit, claims Boris Johnson. Chinese woman arrested in Germany on suspicion of espionage, prosecutor says. UK cedes Chagos Island sovereignty to Mauritius, retains Diego Garcia Air Base. Argentina vows to gain full sovereignty of the Falklands with concrete action after Chagos deal. Masamitsu Yoshioka, last Pearl Harbor bombardier, dies at 106. 500 pounds US WW2 bomb explodes at Japanese airport 80 years later. BBC's Boris Johnson interview cancelled after presenter Laura Quensberg mistakenly sent former UK Prime Minister briefing notes. Reuters reports that Musk funded right-wing political non-profit years before he endorsed Trump, sources say. Pink Floyd's David Gilmour rejects Roger Waters' reunion over support for genocidal dictators. NHS England proposes phased rollout for Eli Lilly's star obesity drug, Mounjaro. In the UK, surgeon used Swiss Army knife to cut patient open as he couldn't find clean scalpel. Reportedly, England's HIV diagnoses hit 15 years high after surge of cases among migrants coming in. MPs to get historic vote on England and Wales assisted dying bill. In the US, 10 pharmaceutical distributor executives, sales representatives, and brokers charged in connection with unlawful sales of nearly 70 opioid pills. WHO approves first monkeypox diagnostic test for emergency use, boosting global access. Putin signs law giving criminal defendants immunity if they join the army. Chinese mercenaries fighting for Russia killed in Ukraine, claimed in a report. Russia scraps population census as war casualties mount. CIA seeks informants in China, North Korea and Iran recruiting online. In the U.S., 5 Chinese nationals charged with covering up midnight visit to Michigan military site. Russian state TV employee caught impersonating BBC reporter to film Russian opposition figures in Europe. California becomes first state to ban sell-by and best before labels to reduce food waste. Biden administration restores pre-Trump farm worker protections from pesticides. Biden exempts some semiconductor factories from environmental reviews. Painting found by junk dealer and seller is original Picasso, experts claim. Lady Gaga says her take on Harley Quinn came from her experience with mania and chaos inside. Reese Witherspoon to write debut novel, will team with Harlan Coben for a collaborative suspense. Texas sues TikTok, alleging it's selling children's personal data. Telegram confirms it gave U.S. user data to the cops, as Telegram has been disclosing user IPs since 2018, Durov says. Australian court upholds order for Musk's ex to pay $418,000 fine over anti-child abuse probe. NASA's Europa Clipper spacecraft is set to look for life-friendly conditions around Jupiter. SpaceX veterans create startup-to-power spacecraft with moon water. SunEject's largest X-class solar flare in 7 years. Auroras may be visible as far as Texas. Accenture to train 30,000 staff on NVIDIA AI tech in blockbuster deal. Meta smart glasses can be used to dox anyone in seconds, study finds. Judge blocks California's new AI law in case over Kamala Harris deepfake. Microsoft announces to employees, you can continue working from home unless productivity drops. Amazon could cut 14,000 managers soon and save $3 billion a year, according to Morgan Stanley. World Wide Web Foundation to shut down after 15 years. Biden administration restores pre-Trump farm worker protections from pesticides. In the U.S., Supreme Court declines to block Biden rules on planet-warming methane and toxic mercury emissions. EU fishing and farming deals with Morocco failed to include Western Sahara's consent, top court says. Zelensky calls for jointly intercepting Russian missiles during NATO chief Rutte's visit to Kiev, as new NATO chief Mark Rutte visits Ukraine in his first trip since taking office. NATO won't shoot down Russian missiles and drones over Ukraine as it's involving U.S. in war in different way, announced by Pentagon. Not 1, but 2 asteroids might have ended the age of dinosaurs, as scientists discover a 5 miles wide undersea crater created as the dinosaurs disappeared, where the 5 miles asteroid impact crater below Atlantic captured in exquisite detail by seismic data. Ant agriculture began 66 million years ago, in the aftermath of the asteroid that doomed the dinosaurs, says a study. IDF says it killed Hamas de facto PM, Sinwar's right-hand man, in strike 3 months ago. Reuters special report claims, emails show early U.S. concerns over Gaza offensive, Risk of Israeli war crimes. Middle East conflict sparks Chinese national pride. Criticism of Israel. Nasrallah's reported successor, Hashem Safieddine, targeted in Israel Air Force's strike in Beirut, said in a report. Iran will attack Israel again if necessary, Supreme Leader says in rare speech. Biden says U.S. discussing possible Israeli strikes on Iran oil facilities, and Indian Navy ships reach Iranian port for training, amid West Asia tensions. U.S. crude oil jumps as Biden comments on possible Israel retaliation against Iran. Slovakia says it has strong interest in maintaining transit of Russian oil, gas via Ukraine. As if war ends, I'll restore relations with Russia, Slovakia's Fico says. 10 days ago, Slovak Prime Minister PM Robert Fico gets a bullet in the mail. Warsaw condemns Moscow for abductions of children in Ukraine, as Polish Foreign Minister likens Russian kidnapping of Ukrainian children to Nazi crimes in UN speech. The UK and EU vow to mend their Brexit-battered ties. They will set a new agenda and hold summits. Moldova accuses Russia of bribing citizens to block EU vote. Indian population leapfrogs Chinese to become third largest ethnicity in New Zealand. That 90s show cancelled on Netflix after 2 seasons. YouTube Shorts will boost max video length to 3 minutes. Rugrats live-action movie in the works at Paramount, with CGI babies. Mark Cuban still loves Dogecoin, but every meme coin is a rug pull in the works. IMF urging El Salvador to limit Bitcoin use and tighten regulations. Analysis reveals possible 51% attacks by Satoshi on Bitcoin in early 2009, and upcoming HBO documentary claims to have identified Satoshi Nakamoto. Fortune reports as criminals prefer cash to crypto, new report finds. Visa introduces the Visa tokenized asset platform that helps banks issue fiat-backed tokens. Franklin Templeton files for Bitcoin and Ethereum Index ETF with the SEC. SEC appeals Ripple ruling as Bitwise files for XRP ETF, and SEC's enforcement chief exits as Ripple appeal looms. Kraken to end Monero support in European Economic Area. Mercado Bitcoin taps Ripple for payments between Brazil and Portugal. Ryanair will eliminate airport check-in desks and paper boarding passes. PepsiCo to buy tortilla chip maker Siete Foods for $1.2 billion. Nasdaq faces inquiry from 22 GOP state attorneys general over diversity rules. Yazidi woman kidnapped by IS when she was 11 freed from Gaza, in U.S.-led operation after decade in captivity. French jihadist linked to Charlie Hebdo attackers, sentenced to life in prison. Bloomberg comments as Israel's fight with Islamist groups puts Arab world in dilemma, and Reuters reports that Gulf states sought to reassure Iran of their neutrality in Iran and Israel conflict, sources say. Bogus skydiving instructor jailed for lying about qualifications at California school that saw 28 deaths. Houthis send email alert to Red Sea ships, as prepare for attack with best regards. Most players prefer single-player games, new study claims. Court says betting on U.S. congressional elections can resume for now. In Brazil, Haddad says 2,000 illegal betting sites will be taken offline. Robinhood lets Brits lend shares for extra income in bid to grow international footprint. Kids missed out on learning to swim during pandemic, widening racial and ethnic disparities. Trauma at life's beginning can mar its end, study finds. Scientists identify brain signal disruptions behind voices in schizophrenia. Ultra-processed foods account for nearly half of calories eaten by UK toddlers, study finds. Adult dietary patterns with increased bean consumption are associated with greater overall shortfall nutrient intakes, lower added sugar, improved weight-related outcomes and better diet quality. Cellular agriculture research manages to culture pork fat tissue on rye protein scaffolds. Dental benefits of adding fluoride to water may have declined, study finds. Study ties diabetes and obesity to increased risk of liver cancer relapse, as non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and diabetes mellitus, as growing etiologies of hepatocellular carcinoma. Rheumatoid arthritis tied to heavy economic and human burdens. More than 800 monkeypox deaths recorded across Africa. Bavarian Nordic mpox shot shows antibody responses wane after 6 to 12 months, as per a study. CDC says mpox vaccine boosters aren't needed in the U.S. as questions emerge around waning immunity. This season's flu vaccine cuts risk of hospitalization by almost 35%, Finds report. Arab League condemns what it describes as Israel's brutal scenario in Lebanon. Oxfam says more women, children killed by Israel in Gaza than in any other conflict in 2 decades. Nobel Peace Prize could honor UNRWA, ICJ and UN Chief Guterres, as Security Council backs Guterres after Israeli move to label UN chief persona non grata. Russia's power generation by nuclear plants to grow by 37% by 2036. Michigan nuclear plant finalizes federal loan to support first reactor restart in U.S. history. Microsoft's mammoth AI bet will lead to over $100 billion in data center leases. Gazprom becomes Russia's least profitable company in 2023, Forbes reports. Rumors of Stellantis and Renault merger are pure speculation, says Stellantis CEO. China's stock boom may turn to bust as in 2015, Nomura warns. New Perfdol malware targets Linux servers for cryptocurrency mining and proxy jacking. North Korean hackers using new Veil shell backdoor in stealthy cyber attacks. Cloudflare blocks largest recorded DDoS attack peaking at 3.8 Tbps. Interpol arrests 8 in major phishing and romance fraud crackdown in West Africa. Lockbit ransomware and Evil Corp members arrested and sanctioned in joint global effort. In the U.S., 2 foreign nationals sentenced for multimillion-dollar scheme to defraud Apple Incorporated out of 6,000 iPhones. K-drama giant CJ to spend $750 million yearly to fight Hollywood. Margaret Qualley in racism row after asking Blackpink's Jennie if her blonde hair is real, as Jennie experiences racism at Paris Fashion Week as Margaret Qualley questions her blonde hair. Los Angeles prosecutors to review new evidence in Menendez brothers' 1996 murder conviction. New hearing set as DA weighs evidence of molestation, amid success of Netflix's Monsters. North Korea's Kim calls Yoon puppet, threatens to nuke Seoul if attacked. In the U.S., Democrats suspect Netanyahu attempting to tilt Trump versus Harris race. Research suggests original art elicits 10x the emotion of Prince. Standard Chartered says Bitcoin not a safe haven against geopolitical risk, gold is. Australia's police confiscates crypto worth $6.4 million in crackdown on ghost messaging app. PayPal settles invoice with EY and PUSD first business payment. Africa's famous Serengeti and Masai Mara are being hit by climate change as a major threat to wildlife and tourism. Hurricane Kirk strengthens into a Category 4 storm in the Atlantic. Bird flu outbreak kills dozens of tigers in Vietnam zoos. In Spain, the government proposes creating a new flexible sick leave that allows part-time work. U.S. job growth picks up to 254,000 in September, but employment falls in entertainment industry. Employment in India up 36% with 17M jobs between 2016 and 17, also 2022 and 23. OpenAI announces on the October 1st Dev Day, real-time API to build fast speech-to-speech experiences into their applications, vision fine-tuning to fine-tune GPT-4o with images and text to improve vision capabilities, prompt caching to get automatic discounts on inputs that the model has recently seen, and distillation to fine-tune a cost-efficient model with the outputs of a large frontier model. Gemini Nano is now available on Android via experimental access. Microsoft delivers new Copilot Plus AI PC features with Windows 11's 2024 update. Physicists find evidence of negative time in photons. At CERN, the Na-62 experiment observes the very first ultra-rare particle decay of kaon. Researchers build a fully edible transistor using tooth-whitening pigments found in toothpaste. Typhoon bringing heavy rain slowly heads toward Taiwan, where 4,000 have evacuated. Fires in Brazil's Amazon rainforest region surge for third month. India braces for above-average rains, rising temperatures in October. WikiLeaks' Julian Assange says he pleaded guilty to journalism in order to be freed. Weight Watchers CEO suddenly quits after push to embrace weight loss drugs like Ozempic, Wegovy. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro declares Christmas to begin in October. Vance and Walz keep it civil in a policy-heavy discussion in VP debate. UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, restates its profound concern as the U.S. government moves to make permanent its June 2024 asylum regulation. CBS cuts mics of Vance and Walz during immigration argument. France to consider corporate tax increase to lower budget deficit. Claudia Sheinbaum is sworn in as Mexico's first female president. Former Dutch leader Rutte takes NATO reins with pledge to keep up Ukraine aid. Apple TV Plus unveils first look at new psychological thriller, Before, starring and executive produced by Billy Crystal, premiering globally Friday, October 25th. Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim, an anime prequel with war elephants, great eagles and Brian Cox, gets poster visual completed. The Lord of the Rings, Battle of Rohan, will be released on December 27th. Pink Floyd agrees deal to sell music rights to Sony for $400 million. Microsoft discontinues HoloLens 2, support to end in 2027 with no successor in sight. Microsoft brings AI-powered overviews to Bing, and Microsoft starts paying publishers for content surfaced by Copilot. Animated Robin origin story dynamic duo set at DC Studios, featuring Dick Grayson and Jason Todd. A new UMass study shows that super spikes can increase track running speed by 2%. Nike unveils new collection with Serena Williams design crew. Mental health issues are a common phenomenon in elite sports, Dutch study finds. DeepMind and BioNTech build AI lab assistants for scientific research. Oracle to invest $6.5 billion in AI and cloud infrastructure in Malaysia. Meta says it will expand production of mixed reality headsets in Vietnam. The Guardian reports that Russia's FSB protected Evil Corp gang that carried out NATO cyber attacks. Apple quietly deletes nearly 100 VPNs that allowed Russians to get around censorship. In the U.S., Russian national indicted for series of ransomware attacks, using the BitPaymer ransomware variant. Snapchat failed to properly warn against sextortion schemes targeting underage users, claimed in the lawsuit. Pinterest rolls out Gen AI tools for product imagery to advertisers. Ireland introduces 40% tax incentive for lower to mid-range budget films, which led by Irish creative talent. Trump backs out of 60 Minutes primetime interview, CBS says. In the U.S., Senate Democrats seek probe into Department of Justice's investigation of Trump and Egypt. Tim Walz said he was in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre. He was home in Nebraska. Iran launches about 180 ballistic missiles at Israel. Biden directed U.S. military to help Israel shoot down Iranian missiles. Politico reports that U.S. officials quietly backed Israel's military push against Hezbollah. Christie's inaugural evening sale at new APAC headquarters amasses $133 million, with Van Gogh and Monet setting Asian records. A long-lost painting from Botticelli's studio is rediscovered in a French church. Marvel and DC lose trademark for superhero. China unveils lunar spacesuit for crewed moon mission. NASA's Webb telescope discovers early galaxy with odd light signature. Iran launches new research satellite Shamran 1 into orbit. Switzerland and Italy redraw border, as melting glaciers shift the frontier. Supplies arrive by plane and by mule in North Carolina, as Helene's death toll tops 130. California faces unprecedented local spread of dengue fever, possibly driven by climate change. Newsom vetoes U.S.'s first bill aimed at regulating large-scale artificial intelligence and passes law protecting consumer brain data. California enacts car data privacy law to curb domestic violence, and California governor vetoes bill requiring speeding alerts in new cars. California law bans college legacy and donor admissions, including at USC, Stanford. White House urges dockworkers in East Coast ports to settle differences amid strike threat. And dockworkers at ports from Maine to Texas go on strike, a standoff risking new shortages. Trump says he asked Musk for Starlink in Helene-hit towns. Police stop more black drivers, while speed cameras issue unbiased tickets, announced in a new study from Chicago. FFmpeg 7.1 released with VVC decoder promoted to stable. Vulkan H.264 and H.265 encode. Udemy gave instructors just 3 weeks to opt out of AI training. Liquid announces the first series of Liquid Foundation models, LFMs, a new generation of generative AI models that achieve state-of-the-art performance at every scale, while maintaining a smaller memory footprint and more efficient inference, focusing on different modalities and hardware requirements. A team from the IBM CP has developed a technique that multiplies the beta-carotene content in plant leaves, as super golden lettuce richer in vitamin A. In the U.S., reportedly, government scientists faked images published in Alzheimer's research papers. 63% of Gen Z respondents say They prefer video games to movies. Google wins lawsuit against scammers who weaponize DMCA takedowns. Reddit policy changes make site-wide protests nearly impossible. Verizon says network issues are resolved after a wave of outage reports. Raspberry Pi's AI camera on sale now at $70, with 12-megapixel Sony IMX500 intelligent vision sensor. China urges local companies to stay away from NVIDIA's chips, and Reuters reports that ByteDance plans new AI model trained with Huawei chips, sources say. SoftBank rises on possible $500 million investment in OpenAI. Bloomberg reports that ARM is rebuffed by Intel after inquiring about buying product unit. Fidelity has cut its estimate of X's value by 79% since Musk's purchase. Malaysia plans national cloud policy AI regulations, as at Google data center launch. Anwar says Malaysia to have national cloud policy. Pollen allergies drove woolly mammoths to extinction, study claims. Bronze Age Chinese cheese found next to mummies is world's most ancient at 3,600 years old. A new study has linked traffic noise and pollution to infertility, but the effects differed for men and women. eBay wins dismissal of U.S. lawsuit over sale of harmful products. T-Mobile pays $31.5 million FCC settlement over 4 data breaches. YouTube inks deal with SESAC to restore music videos for Adele, Nirvana, Bob Dylan and more in U.S. Chris Christopherson, country music legend and A Star is Born leading man, dies at 88. The Onion is pivoting to video, with a former MSNBC anchor. Sean Diddy Combs accused of sexually abusing 9-year-old boy as 120 people allege abuse, and Sean Diddy Combs accused of sexual assault by more than 50 victims represented by Texas law firm. GM's Cruise self-driving unit to pay $1.5 million fine, over crash disclosure. FBI to pay $22 million to settle claims of sexual discrimination at Training Academy. First funds from opioid settlement will go to Santa Cruz County nonprofits. Man pleads guilty to illegally operating crypto ATM network in the UK. Crypto billionaire Zhao vows more tech investment after leaving U.S. custody. Robinhood launches crypto transfers in Europe with 1% deposit match. Netflix cancellations spiked after Reed Hastings donated to Kamala Harris. 43 feet tall, naked Nevada Trump effigy vanishes after roadside ruckus. Man accused of attempting to assassinate Trump pleads not guilty to federal charges. Harris says she backs legalizing marijuana, going further than Biden. Trump says one rough hour of policing would end crime. Far-right wins close Austria election, a boost for Putin. NYT endorses Harris as the only choice for president, as New York Times comments for Kamala Harris, the only patriotic choice for president. On September 20th, in-person voting begins for the U.S. presidential contest, kicking off the sprint to Election Day. CBS News to air QR code fact-check feature during vice presidential debate. Lionsgate offers voluntary severance early retirement program. Fox Nation to debut faith-based shows, under Fox Faith brand. DC Studios developing movie involving Bane and Deathstroke from writer Matthew Orton. Hamas commander killed in Israeli strike-led UN Refugee Agency Teachers Union, as UNRWA confirms Hamas leader in Lebanon was its employee. Netanyahu says killing Nasrallah is key to restoring power balance and recovering hostages. The Independent comments as a scandal at the Jewish Chronicle, also goes to the top of the BBC, and New York Times comments as a 180-years-old Jewish paper is roiled by fabrications and a secret, who owns it? Christie's inaugural evening sale at new APAC headquarters amasses $133 million, with Van Gogh and Monet setting Asian records. A long-lost painting from Botticelli's studio is rediscovered in a French church. Marvel and DC lose trademark for superhero. China unveils lunar spacesuit for crewed moon mission. NASA's Webb telescope discovers early galaxy with odd light signature. Iran launches new research satellite Shamran 1 into orbit. Switzerland and Italy redraw border, as melting glaciers shift the frontier. Supplies arrive by plane and by mule in North Carolina, as Helene's death toll tops 130. California faces unprecedented local spread of dengue fever, possibly driven by climate change. Newsom vetoes U.S.'s first bill aimed at regulating large-scale artificial intelligence, and passes law protecting consumer brain data. California enacts car data privacy law to curb domestic violence, and California governor vetoes bill requiring speeding alerts in new cars. California law bans college legacy and donor admissions, including at USC, Stanford. White House urges dockworkers in East Coast ports to settle differences amid strike threat. And dockworkers at ports from Maine to Texas go on strike, a standoff risking new shortages. Trump says he asked Musk for Starlink in Helene-hit towns. Police stop more black drivers, while speed cameras issue unbiased tickets. Announced in a new study from Chicago. FFmpeg 7.1 released with VVC decoder promoted to stable. Vulkan H.264 and H.265 encode. Udemy gave instructors just 3 weeks to opt out of AI training. Liquid announces the first series of Liquid Foundation models, LFMs. A new generation of generative AI models that achieve state-of-the-art performance at every scale, while maintaining a smaller memory footprint and more efficient inference, focusing on different modalities and hardware requirements. A team from the IBM CP has developed a technique that multiplies the beta-carotene content in plant leaves, as super golden lettuce richer in vitamin A. In the US, reportedly, government scientists faked images published in Alzheimer's research papers. 63% of Gen Z respondents say they prefer video games to movies. Google wins lawsuit against scammers who weaponize DMCA takedowns. Reddit policy changes make site-wide protests nearly impossible. Verizon says network issues are resolved after a wave of outage reports. Raspberry Pi's AI camera on sale now at $70, with 12-megapixel Sony IMX500 intelligent vision sensor. China urges local companies to stay away from NVIDIA's chips, and Reuters reports that ByteDance plans new AI model trained with Huawei chips, sources say. SoftBank rises on possible $500 million investment in OpenAI. Bloomberg reports that ARM is rebuffed by Intel after inquiring about buying product unit. Fidelity has cut its estimate of X's value by 79% since Musk's purchase. Malaysia plans national cloud policy AI regulations, as at Google data center launch. Anwar says Malaysia to have national cloud policy. Pollen allergies drove woolly mammoths to extinction, study claims. Bronze Age Chinese cheese found next to mummies is world's most ancient at 3,600 years old. A new study has linked traffic noise and pollution to infertility, but the effects differed for men and women. eBay wins dismissal of U.S. lawsuit over sale of harmful products. T-Mobile pays $31.5 million FCC settlement over 4 data breaches. YouTube inks deal with SESAC to restore music videos for Adele, Nirvana, Bob Dylan and more in U.S. Chris Christopherson, country music legend and A Star is Born leading man, dies at 88. The Onion is pivoting to video, with a former MSNBC anchor. Sean Diddy Combs accused of sexual assault by more than 50 victims represented by Texas law firm. GM's Cruise self-driving unit to pay $1.5 million fine over crash disclosure. FBI to pay $22 million to settle claims of sexual discrimination at Training Academy. First funds from opioid settlement will go to Santa Cruz County nonprofits. Man pleads guilty to illegally operating crypto ATM network in the UK. Crypto billionaire Zhao vows more tech investment after leaving U.S. custody. Robinhood launches crypto transfers in Europe with 1% deposit match. Netflix cancellations spiked after Reed Hastings donated to Kamala Harris. 43 feet tall, naked Nevada Trump effigy vanishes after roadside ruckus. Man accused of attempting to assassinate Trump pleads not guilty to federal charges. Harris says she backs legalizing marijuana, going further than Biden. Trump says one rough hour of policing would end crime. Far-right wins close Austria election, a boost for Putin. NYT endorses Harris as the only choice for president, as New York Times comments for Kamala Harris, the only patriotic choice for president. On September 20th, in-person voting begins for the U.S. presidential contest, kicking off the sprint to Election Day. CBS News to air QR code fact-check feature during vice presidential debate. Lionsgate offers voluntary severance early retirement program. Fox Nation to debut faith-based shows under Fox Faith brand. DC Studios developing movie involving Bane and Deathstroke from writer Matthew Orton. Hamas commander killed in Israeli strike-led UN Refugee Agency Teachers Union, as UNRWA confirms Hamas leader in Lebanon was its employee. Netanyahu says killing Nasrallah is key to restoring power balance and recovering hostages. The Independent comments as a scandal at the Jewish Chronicle, also goes to the top of the BBC, and New York Times comments as a 180-year-old Jewish